Alright, welcome back, and let's pick up where we left. So in our last video, we built our landing page. And I'll still consider that a single landing page, even though it looks like there's multiple different pages, but as we know, it's just made up of a bunch of components. Now, let's quickly wrap up our final page, and then so we can move on to building out the pricing page. So let's come back to our code, and let's, and here, let's say, use effect. Let's open that, and don't forget the dependencies array. For now, just put an empty dependency array and then say const timeout is equal to set timeout, and open that, and let's say const answer. So we want to get the answers from the responses, which we should receive here, responses. Let me just double check. We have passed. Yes, we did. All right. And let's say const formatted date is equal to new date answers dot q4 dot to locale date string, and then we can just format our message and then put it in a little alert pop-up box. Let's say const message is equal to, let's open this tick response q1. So we'll just put answers dot q1, and then q2 is just answers dot q2. So nothing complicated here, and I didn't go fancy with this alert box. You can go fancy with it if you want, but I don't think that's necessary at this stage. So q3 answers, actually sorry, q3 would be formatted date that we just did right here, and then q4 will be answers dot q5. Remember, we skipped one because of the question 2 no. q5 will be answers dot q6, and then q6 will be answers dot q7. Right, let me just put it here. Okay, and after that, let's just alert this message, and I want to give it a little bit delay, so I'm going to say 500 milliseconds delay here, just so it doesn't show up right away. I want to have a slight delay, and then don't forget to clean up our timeout function. So return this clear timeout and then pass our timeout function here. And lastly, let's just put responses in our dependencies array. So if this changes, we'll listen to that. Okay, let's give that a try. So come back to our final page, just go through that. So I'm gonna click a bunch of buttons, pizza, cheesecake. Remember what we clicked? Park. And there we go. This is that alert box that we just created. So I clicked yes on both question 1 and question 2, and I believe that's what I clicked. Yes, and pizza, cheesecake, and parking. Great. And let's come back to our final page again. 1 closing div, 2 closing div. After that, let's do h2 with a class name of text 2 extra large font bold text brand tracking wide margin top 20, and in here let's say surprise her, and below that let's add a button that has a span. First it says create your own, and give this span a class name of text extra large, and after that let's just add a little arrow here, arrow right from Lucid, import that, and then give it a class name of size 4, margin left 2, group hover, translate x1 transition transform, and close that. And in order to use this group, however, we need to give a class name to the parent div. So for the button, let's say size is going to be large, and class name, let's say margin top for group, so that when we hover over on the anywhere on this button, this will move slightly to the right a little bit. So group, and then relative, animate, pulse, ring. Remember in the beginning of the video, we added this customized animation under our Tailwind config file. Remember? So we're going to see it in effect in a minute. Okay, padding Y6. And on click, we want to direct our user to our pricing page. So we can do something like this. So on click is equal to, let's call, so we can utilize the Next.js router. In order to use that, we need to import that. So let's come up here and let's say const router is equal to use router, and then import that from Next navigation, and come back to our button, and let's say router.push. We want to push the user to / pricing page, and because we don't have that, let's create it. So come to our, just make it slightly bigger. Under source, under app, let's create a new folder and then call it pricing. And because we're using Next.js, we need to create this page.js file. It has to be page.js or TS, whatever you're using, but it has to be named page. And let's just quickly do that for now. Okay. And below this button, let's open another div with a class name of with fit margin x auto margin top 12, and inside let's open another div with the class name of relative, and inside open another div with a class name of absolute inset 0 flex item center, and in here we just need a self-closing div with the class name of with full border top border gray 200. And after this closing div, let's open another div with a class name of relative flex justify center text extra small, and in here let's open a span with class name of bg white padding x2 text gray 500, and then we'll just say or. And below the span, below the div, one div, two div, let's open a link from next link. And of course we need to give this link an href, and then let's call it /sign in. Don't worry, we're gonna handle that in a bit. And give it a class name of, and for this class name, let's open that and import our cn from utils file, and then button variants from /ui/button, and then give it a size of large. So closing curly brace closing paren, and let's say margin top 4 flex item center justify center padding x 4 padding y 5, and in here we just need a span that says sign in, but let's give it a class name of text brand. And let me just check, do I need anything else? Yes, we need to add use client on the top because we're using use effect. Okay, let's take a look. So come back here. Alright folks, if you just ran into the same issue as I did when you open the page and it seems like all of your CSS are lost, my apologies, because I forgot to include this closing parentheses in our keyframes when we defined it in the Tailwind config file. You probably didn't have this issue because you're smarter and you include this, but Yeah, I never had this issue, so it took me some time to debug, but we're good to go now. So let's take a look at the final page after we did some changes. So I'm just gonna click through a bunch of them and see the result on, yeah. Okay, so we have this button or link, and when we click on that, it should take us to the pricing page, but now it's just empty. As we can see, it's an empty page. And let's take a look at our next step, which is the pricing page. All right, so let's start building it. So let's come back to our code, and we can, for now, we can close this one and close this one and just go to our under source, under app, and then pricing page here. Let's get rid of that. Let's say nav bar. Let's import our nav bar. This comes pre-installed, by the way, when you are using that public template in the beginning. And then below that, let's just create a new component called pricing. Pricing. And we don't have that yet. Let's create that. So come to our components folder and then create a new file, call it pricing.js. And let's just quickly create a skeleton of it. And let's say, give it a class name of min height screen, padding y 24, on small and above padding bottom 32. And inside, let's open a max with wrapper. And inside, open a div with a class name of margin x auto, on small and above text center. And in here, let's say surprise your special someone. So this is, this is a pricing page. We're trying to convince people to buy it, basically. So okay, so give it a class name of text 4 extra large on small and above text 5 extra large, text pretty, text center, font bold, and text brand. And below this h1, let's open another div with a class name of max with pros, margin x auto, margin top 6. Inside, let's open a p tag, p tag, and then say got someone special on your mind, make it easier and way more fun to figure out your Valentine's plans. Create a custom quiz with cute, playful questions to ask them where they want to go, what they want to eat, and what comes next. Throw in some meme-worthy gifts for extra charm and make this Valentine's one they will never forget. This is just something I came up with. You can write your own copy, and I'm gonna add a little bit of emoji here. And let's give this p tag a class name of text base /8. And basically this just does two things at once. So font size 1 rem and line height 2 rem. And what else? Text gray 600, text center, text pretty. And this text pretty class name, basically it just wraps your text in a way that it looks better. Like it won't leave one word on a single line because it looks kind of odd with one word. Like it will try to balance your paragraph. That's it. Okay, so below this div and below this div, let's open another div where the class name would be margin x auto, margin top 12, aspect video. We're going to put a video here, our demo video, with full, max with 3 extra large. And we can just put a iframe here. And this can just be a self-closing tag. So let me put this on a different line. And then for the source, I'm going to use mine. So I'm going to copy the source and put it here. And the title would be product demo video, and give it a class name of width full, height full, rounded to extra large. What's that? Rounded to extra large. And allow is gonna be accelerometer. Did I spell that right? Accelerometer, yeah. Autoplay. You can decide if you want it to be automatically playing. Clipboard write. Encrypted media. Gyroscope. Picture in picture. And to be honest with you, I think they are not necessary, but you know, AI just added for me. I think all we need is just autoplay, and this one, it just means that it responds to your device's rotation. And then this picture in picture and everything else, I think it's fine. I think I misspelled encrypted. Yeah, I just need one more thing. Allow full screen. And below this div, let's open another div with a class name of bg white, margin x auto, margin top 16, max width 2 extra large, rounded 3 extra large, no, 3 extra large, ring 1, ring gray 200, on small and above margin top 20, on large and above margin x 0, on large and above flex, on large and above max width none. And in here, let's open another div with a class name of padding 8, on small and above padding 10, on large and above flex auto. And in here, let's open an h3 tag with a class name of text 3 extra large, font semi-bold, tracking tight, text gray 900. And in here, we'll say one-time purchase, lifetime love, and just to match the pattern. And below here, a p tag with a class name of margin top 6, text base /7, text gray 600. And in here, we'll say make this Valentine's one to remember. So just kind of reinforce the idea by so make this Valentine one to remember by creating a unique quiz for your special someone. Take the guesswork out of planning the perfect date. Oops. Yeah. And below this p tag, let's open another div with a class name of flex, margin top 10, item center gap x 4. So horizontally, the gap will have 4. Then in here, an h4 that says what's included, but let's use the HTML symbol. So ampersand, APOS, then semicolon S, included. Below this h4, a self-closing div, so self-closing div with a class name of height, just 1 pixel, and then flex auto bg gray 100. And below this div, let's open an unordered list with a class name of margin top 8 grid, grid columns 1 on mobile, gap 4, text small /6, text gray 600 on small and above grid columns 2. So 2 columns on small and above gap 6. So slightly bigger gap. And in here, we're going to iterate through our defined features. So let's come back to the top of this component, and we can just say const included features is equal to, this is what I defined for the paid features, and you can define your own. And I said upload your own GIFs, images. What else? you can receive answers in your email, and you get a unique link for your person. What else? You can customize the questions. So those are 4 paid features basically. So let's come back here, and then let's iterate through those, and let's say included features.map. Then for each feature we're gonna return something. We're gonna return an li. So li, and because we're iterating through the array, so we need a key. It's gonna be feature, and give it a class name of flex gap 3. And in here I'm gonna use a heart icon from Lucid, import that, and let's say size 6, flex none, fill brand, text brand. Close that, and below that we'll just render the feature as is. And we can take a look at what we have so far. So let's come to the top, and we can just go directly there. So pricing is not defined. It's because we didn't import it. Okay, so let's import that and take a look again. Okay, there we go. What's this error? Invalid DOM property frame. Okay, so let me correct that. Frame border, hey? Frame border. Where was that? Actually, we don't need this. We can just get rid of that. Okay. Nice. And yeah, let's continue building out this part. So let's come back here. And below this UL, closing UL, below this closing div, let's open another div with a class name of padding2 minus margin top 2 on large and above margin top 0, on large and above width full, on large and above max width medium, on large and above flex shrink 0, so don't shrink. And in here let's open another div with a class name of rounded to extra large, bg gray 50, padding y 10, text center, ring 1, ring inset, ring gray 900/5, so 5% opacity on large and above flex, large and above flex column, on large and above justify center, on large and above padding y 16. And in here let's open another div with a class name of margin x auto, max with extra small, padding y 8. And in here let's create a p tag and says one-time payment, because who doesn't love one-time payment? And then give it a class name of text base, font semi-bold, text gray 600. And below this p tag let's add another p tag with a class name, class name of flex, items baseline, margin top 6, justify center, gap x2, and in here we need 2 span. So span 1 is gonna be $9.99. That's the price I set. I think it's reasonable, and give it a class name of text 5 extra large, font bold, tracking tight, not tighter, tight, text gray 900, and the second span will just be CAD because I'm charging Canadian dollars. You can put USD, whatever your currency is, and give it a class name of text small, font semi-bold, leading 6. So I believe this leading, every time it confuses me why it's called leading, but it's actually line height. And then tracking wide, text gray 600. And below this p tag, a button, import that says create now. And then let's add a few things here. So the size, we want it to be large, and the class name, we want it to be margin top 6, padding x 20, so it's going to be pretty big, padding y 8, text large, font semi-bold, And then on click, we want to pretty much take the user to the checkout page. We're going to call the function handle purchase. Handle purchase. We don't have that function yet, but let's just define it. Come up here and then let's say const handle purchase, and let's open that function. Basically, what we're going to do is just take the user to sign in. And after they successfully sign in, we're going to take them to the actual checkout page, but we're going to worry about that later. For now, let's just say router.push. And in order to use router, we need to do what? Const router is equal to use router. Then we can say router.push. And then we're going to slash sign in, but this time we want to attach something to the param. Let's say intent is equal to purchase, and we can just return it here. Okay, let's come back down to the button here, and below this button, let's open a p tag that has a class name of flex, item center, justify center, gap x 1.5, select none, margin top 6, text extra small, leading 5, text gray 600. And in here, let's open a span with just an icon, a lock icon from Lucid, and then give it a class name of size 4, and close that. Below the span, let's just say secure payment via Stripe. Just to boost the confidence for your potential buyer, right? So let's take a look. Yeah, we forgot to add that. So use client. Okay, let's take a look again. Surprise your special. Actually, special. Okay, let me update that. This is what happens when you hand type stuff. I don't actually do that nowadays. It's almost always AI, so and AI don't make mistakes, but human do. So yeah, let's check again. Surprise your special someone. Let's just double check. Blah blah blah. And then our demo video, does it play? Yes, it does. And by the way, the reason I didn't put this nav bar in our homepage, like the landing page, is I just don't want to kind of ruin the whole experience. And to be honest with you, I don't think we even need this nav bar anywhere. So I'm actually going to remove that towards the end, but for now, just for the sake of testing our authentication, I'm going to keep it here, and later we'll see. I don't think we need it. So let's take care of our next order of business, which is, well, we want user to click this button, obviously, and when they click that button, we're going to take them to the sign in page. And in order to make the sign in work, we're going to figure out our authentication. And in order to make the authentication work, we're going to figure out our database. So let's do that right now. So let's come to our drawing board again, and let's just sketch out, roughly sketch out what we're going to do, right? So basically, our most 3 important models or tables are going to be, let's say, the first one is going to be the user table. And a user will be able to make a purchase. So a user is going to have an order. So let's call that order. And for now, let's just say one user can have one order. So it's going to be a one-to-one relationship. And then after they purchased, after they placed an order, they can create their own page. And so we can say a user will be able to create a page. And I'm just going to zoom out a little bit and say user can have a page. So let's say, and I called this one a love page. You can call it whatever you want. So love page. And let's take a look at our user table. So obviously the usual stuff, an ID, a name, an email, maybe an image, what else? It's going to have an order, and then this is going to be linked to our order table and a love page, right? And for our order table, let's see, we're going to have, well, same thing, right? ID and amount. An order is going to have an amount. And what else? maybe a boolean that indicates if the user has paid or not, so is paid. And we're also going to need something called Stripe session ID. Can I widen? Yeah, I can. Nice. Okay. So yeah, Stripe session ID, and we're going to need created at, updated at, the usual stuff, and a foreign key to link this order to a specific user. So user ID and user, you stay there, you come down. And for a love page table, let's say, we need ID, of course, and something called slug. So remember, we promised our customers that they're gonna get a unique link to their created page. So for example, someone purchased our product and then they customize the page however they want, and by the end of it they want to be able to publish it, right? So that page is gonna have a URL that they can send it to whoever they want to send. So that the URL of that page is gonna look something like, can you go out with .me / the person's name. So I'm just gonna put a bracket here, right? And the page is also gonna need, obviously, the content, and we're gonna make this one a JSON type. And this page is also gonna need responses, right, from the other person. And we also need a boolean to indicate whether this page is still being edited or it has been published. So this is gonna be a boolean, and the usual stuff like the created at, the updated at, and we need to identify which person does this love page belong to, right? This is how we link, because we don't want anybody to access your page if you created one. That doesn't make sense. So we're gonna do the same thing. So user ID and user. So this is how we link to the user table. And so just to reiterate, so this structure allows us to create multiple love pages for a single user and assign one order per user. So this way we can easily query the related data. And let me just draw a line between those. So I'm going to change that to green. So order is going to be linked to that. And let me change that to blue. And love page is going to be, whatever. And then love page is going to be linked to you like that. Make sense? Let me zoom out a little bit so we can see better. So let's define our schema now that we have a rough idea of how we want to create our tables. So let's come back to our code and go to Prisma and schema.prisma. And if you already checked this file out, you'll notice that we have some models already here. So that comes with the template, but we need to add more stuff to it. So let's do that right now. And let's add a model order here, and let's say ID, this is going to be a string, and ID and default, and we're just going to let Prisma create automatically create a ID for us. And we said we need amount, and this is going to be a float, because remember we defined our price here. How much did we say? $9.99. So this is a float. And then is paid or not, so obviously this is a boolean, and by default this is going to be false, right? By default you haven't paid yet. And the Stripe session ID is going to be a string and optional, but it will be unique. And then created at, the type is datetime, and by default we'll say now, so that Prisma knows how to do that. And then updated at, and then this is also type date time. We can also use the built-in updated at from Prisma. And then remember we need to link it to our user table. So let's say user ID is going to be string at unique, and then user, say user at relation fields, user ID, and references will be ID, and then on delete it's going to be cascade, so that if a user is deleted for some reason, their order will also be deleted. All right, and it's complaining right now because we need to reciprocate in our user model. And let's just come down here and say order, and you can just save that. So when you save it, automatically format the file for you. It's pretty neat. And then our love page model. So let's say model love page, and it has an ID. It's going to be string. Add ID, add default, so same thing as above. And CUID. And then we need to have a slug, remember? So this is going to be a string type, and it has to be unique. So remember the example we had was, can you go out with .me slash and then the person's name, right? For example, if you chose whatever, like Jenny, right? That's the URL you're gonna have. Okay, and then the content is gonna be a JSON type, and the responses is also gonna be a JSON type, but it's gonna be optional in the beginning because we don't have that yet. Because right, the user is gonna edit the page and then publish it and then send it out to that person. So question mark here, and then published. This is a boolean, and by default it's going to be false. Makes sense. And then created at, again, so this is, you can just copy that, by the way. Let's copy our created at and updated at from above. And finally, we need to connect it to our user. So user ID is a string, and then user will be user type at relation fields user ID, and then references is going to be ID on delete cascade. And again, we need to add love page here. The type is going to be love page array. Okay, and then let's save to format the file. Awesome. So now that we have defined our schemas locally, we need to sync it to our remote. Well, we don't have a remote yet, so we need to create that. So let's open our env file. So if you came from the public template, you should have this file. So at the same level as the .env.example file, create another file called .env. We need it to be .env because that's how Prisma is going to identify the key. So let's just copy everything from this file and then paste it in here, and then you can just delete the example env because we don't need it anymore and it's going to conflict later. Now let's open our terminal and follow it step by step here. So first we need a next auth secret. Actually, let me just cut this now. We don't need that. So let's copy this command, paste it in our terminal. It's going to generate a random string of letters, and then copy that, put it here. Boom, we're done. No, we're not done yet. And up next, we need to grab the Google Client ID and secret. So it says go to Google Cloud Console and create a new project. So let's do that now. So I have this Google Console Cloud open, and it seems like this is a new interface. That's fine. That's fine. So let's create a new project. Click here and then say new project. And I'm going to call it Valentine's App Tutorial and hit create. Zoom in a little bit. Okay, so now that it's done creating, let's click on select project, and let's click on APIs and services, and we're going to select OAuth consent screen and click on get started. Okay, so we just need to fill out some basic information, and just to keep it consistent, let's say Valentine's App Tutorial, and put your own email here, click on next, and then choose external. Next, and again put your own email here, click on next, and I agree, continue, create, and let's click on create OAuth client. For the application type, let's just choose web application, and then same thing here, Valentine's App Tutorial. For the authorized JavaScript origins, let's say HTTP //localhost 3000. For the authorized redirect URLs, I actually have I put it here. You just need to copy it. So copy that and then put it here. And click on create. Okay, now it's created. And we need to configure a few more things. So come to our data access and then click on add or remove scopes. We just want to choose the basic three. So the user info.email, user info.profile, and open ID. And we can say update. It's going to be updated, and then let's save that. And I believe that's everything. Now we just need to grab the ID and secret. So click on the overview. It's a little bit different than before. This is a new interface, so let me find where that is. Maybe it's in here, so let me click on that and see. Oh yeah, it's here. Yeah, okay. So let's grab the client ID and come back here, put it here, and then the client secret. Copy that. And by the way, I will invalidate all of the keys before I upload the video, so don't worry about that. And you should do the same. Just put it in a safe place and don't share it with anybody. Awesome. So now that we have finished configuring the Google Cloud Console, let's move on to our next step, which is to set up our database. And for this one, I'm actually not going to use Supabase. Let's use neon.tech for this one. So just Google neon.tech and it's going to open the page for you like that. I'm going to zoom in a little bit and enter your project name. Same thing here. So Valentine's app tutorial. Seems like they've added a new cloud service provider. I remember it was only AWS before, so now they have Azure, which is pretty cool. Yeah, let's try Azure. And for the region, I'm going to choose, oh wow, only 3 regions, but for AWS, it seems like they have more. Yeah, let's go with AWS then. So I'm going to choose US West and then create project. And let's click on Prisma and click on .env tab and just copy the code here. And then come back here, come back to our code and just get rid of all of them and paste your stuff here. And we don't need that because we're using the latest Prisma. I'm going to get rid of a bunch of comments now because it looks busy. One more thing we need to do is come back to our schema.prisma and go to the top and just comment out the direct URL, because if you take a look at the schema.prisma, it says you need to uncomment this only if you're using Prisma less than 5.10. So we just comment it out. Good. And we can close that. So now all we have to do is just come back to our code and clear this thing because it's messy. And let's say npx prisma db push. So we can sync our database to the remote. Let's hit enter. Okay, for some reason, the first time I tried to db push, it failed, but I guess perhaps it's still setting up and then I just hit it too early, but I tried again and now it's working. So we can come back to our database and see if it actually synced our tables. So let's take a look. Hopefully it's all here. And look at that. We got the love page table. Obviously everything is empty because we haven't inserted anything yet, but we got everything here. The ID, the slug, content, responses. Nice. And then we have the order table, exactly how we defined it, and the user table. Excellent. Okay, now we can finish off the authentication now. And believe it or not, because we're using this boilerplate that I set up, you don't have to do any extra work for authentication. It's just gonna work. So let me show you. So let's open our terminal again and start our development server again. So npm run dev, and let's come to our page here and let's actually try signing in now. So let me click on sign in button. It's gonna direct me to the sign in page. Great. And I'm gonna sign into, okay, this is a placeholder I put here. Remember to change that to the actual product name, but let's just click on continue, and look at that. It's asking me to sign in with Google. So I'm gonna click on my account. Look at that, sign into Valentine's app tutorial. This is the name we put in our Cloud Console. Nice. So click on continue. And it took me back to the home page because how we set it up in our, if you want to take a look, it's in the auth.js file, the direct URL. So yeah, under the callbacks, we have a redirect callback function. This is just returning the home page, but later we're gonna modify a little bit. So Let's just go to slash pricing just so we can see we actually sign. Look at that. We're signed in. I've got my name and oops, I've got my name and my email. And let me try sign out. Sign me out because now that if I go to pricing, it doesn't show anymore. Awesome.